And here we are, we're off and running live on the airwaves. It might feel like a Sunday to us, but it is indeed a Monday, Labor Day here at Gulfstream Park. Jason Blewett, Ron Nicoletti joining all of you on this very rare, but we're happy to be here, Monday edition, Ronnie, of Gulfstream Park today.
Yeah, we get a pretty nice 10-race card. We're on the turf. Turf course is listed as good. And, of course, Rainbow Six. Oh, we're giving away $300,000 in the jackpot guarantee.
And it's a good sequence as well. You've got a couple of stakes on the program. Two very nice fields, by the way, in both grass stakes. And opportunity abounds, no question about it, as we settle in. Now, we did have quite a bit of rain here. Thankfully, maybe an hour or two after the Sunday finale ended, that 11th race, and you had a number of very good opinions yesterday, Ronnie. A real nice Sunday in the pick box. The rain hit after that, but here is a live look at what's doing outside with some last-minute preparations being done over the main track. Now, we do start things on the turf course today on a sunny Labor Day 2020 on this September 7th, and I'm going to take a little gander here at the early pick five, and we start the card, I think, in style. Now, I don't know if I'm just being too hard on the current very early on favorite in the One American Phenom. I don't really like that colt, and I'll talk about it why in a few moments. I've been waiting for the 8 High Def to run back, and he's doing just that in the first race today for Lisa Lewis, and not a lot needs to be said when we watch his first out trip and lack of position. It speaks for itself, but I like High Def, and I use the Pletcher Firster in the 9 Precise, as Todd, way north of us, is up 5 in the race to be leading trainer today on closing day at Saratoga. 2-horse spread for me in the second. I really think the 7 May Start's going to be a tough horse to beat there, and like her, coming out of just a monstrously good 2-year-old filly maiden special weight. I stood alone. The third race changed a lot, and it's a little frustrating. I mean, you can't control the scratches, but that went from a really interesting 4-horse matchup to a 4-horse field, which is basically a 2-horse race, and my single Happy Constitution is going to be an odds-on favorite there and should be off 2 solid efforts so far for Antonio. Opening turf stake goes in the 4th. I am 3 deep. The Day at the Spa rematching fillies in Sensible Myth and Kelsey's Cross, along with the Todd Invader from the Big Apple in Always Shopping, and a 3-horse spread to wrap it up. I do like, Ronnie, though, that we start things out at 12:05 Eastern with a good-looking maiden special weight turf cast. They will battle at 1 mile and a 16th, and you went down inside to the One American Phenom. And what is your take with this colt by American Pharaoh, who's got Edgar from the rail?
Well, he's the son of American Pharaoh, stretching out around 2 turns today, which I like. He returned from the layoff. He finished that race closing second, going 5 on the grass. He's bred to run all day. They claimed his horse for $50,000, but I like the way he came back and run today, and I like the stretch out this afternoon. They had this horse entered in the stake yesterday. He was 15-1. They scratched it out for this spot, so we'll see how this horse runs. But I want to see this replay you're talking about with High Def.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll say my piece with American Phenom. I don't love the race that he's coming out of, that Get the Money Bernie, which to me had the vibe of more of a glorified maiden claimer. I just don't think it was that tough of a special weight field. And, you know, the fact of the matter is nobody's giving anything away for free, and just Todd running a horse who cost basically 7 times what they ran him for in his debut. I get he's run aesthetically fine on the turf. I'm not a big fan of the One American Phenom. Now, in the case of the 8 High Def, we'll go back to his first start back on July 25th, and I pulled the replay from this point on. I was going to pull it even further down the backstretch, but I think from here on basically proves the point about the lack of position, and just and I get it's easy for me to sit up here and judge and critique, but this was just a trip I don't think a grade one stakes horse would have been able to overcome. I mean, look at the ground loss that High Def endured, basically 5 wide throughout that entire second turn run. And despite all that, despite the deck being stacked against him, I thought he ran a fine race first time out for trainer Lisa Lewis, with the pedigree to improve as he makes his second start.
Yeah, you know, we get Edgar Prado this afternoon in the saddle, and High Def definitely on my ticket for all the reasons you just shown.
What about the Pletcher Firster?
Well, he's at $380,000 on a quality road, debuting for Todd with Lasix. So morning work tab showing on the main track. This horse, when Todd does this, not good stats with this. I just think that I had to use it. I'm not going to let Todd beat me, but I'm not totally sold on this horse.
2 turf winning siblings out of a dam that was 1 for 5 on the grass, and you would would think this horse probably fits best running at Gulfstream Park in early September as opposed to maybe Saratoga or waiting for Belmont Fall and somewhat of a belated career debut for that son of a Don handicap winner in Quality Road. We'll hit the main. We'll stay with the maidens, but we shift over to the 2-year-old fillies in this Monday second. It's a $50,000 to $40,000 maiden claimer. No one's really distinguished themselves, just as far as the horses that already have race day experience. You know, there isn't a horse that really sticks out, and then you've got some nondescript firsters debuting for barns that maybe aren't all that well known for popping first time out. Yet the 7 May start really interests me in this race for trainer Kelsey Danner. Very sloppy track first out. I watched the race. She broke legitimately slow and showed a little bit of interest in the final quarter mile while widest of all. Yet the race she's coming out of, this is not the first time we have pulled this chart courtesy of Daily Racing Form Formulator. We did it a few weeks ago when Fuzia came back on the turf, and she, in the process, became the 4th next out winner from this whole Bodemeister race that had Cone Lima in the mix. This was a very good field, and I like, combined with the overall strength, how horses have done dropping out of this race from July the 11th, along with a second-time starter. I think this is a great spot. I really do for the 7 May start.
Yeah, and trainer Kelsey Danner, 3 for 12 with similar class drops, so they're dropping his horse down a little bit this afternoon. Angel Arroyo in the irons. I did go with the number 1 in here. Pretzel is turning back to 7 furlongs on the main track after setting the pace and fading when, again, special weight competition going a 2-turn mile on the turf. One of my good angles that I like, speed on the grass, turning back to 7/8 of a mile. So I looked up a stat on trainer Juan Alvarado over the last couple of years with turf to dirt, all levels, 7 for 31, 23%, 58% in the money, $6.03 is the return of investment. Must have a bomb or two in there. Just like that angle, Miss Michaela taking some money. When you look at the double payoffs, actually the favorite in the doubles, and you got your 7 May start.
And Miss Michaela obviously has speed. We'll see if she can go 7. I like that your horse is going turf to dirt. You would think has got some foundation. This is not an easy trip, not an easy distance for these youngsters. And Pretzel absolutely should have some bottom. And perhaps Edgar Prado very live here in both legs of the early double. We'll move on to the third. And again, this looked like a pretty interesting 3-horse rematch off the 6th race here on August 8th, and then you'd slot in the presence of the 4 Happy Constitution, yet losing the 2 Highland Moon and the 3 Livin' Lovin' as early scratches really changed this race around. Now, we did some work on this, and we're still going to go with the scouting report, although it was reduced in size, and here's basically my summation. I watched the 1 Village Queen race first out. She really showed nothing early and was outrun. From the 8th pole home, though, it was like a completely different filly. It was like she finally figured out, oh, all right, I'm in here to race. And she lowered her head, finished up straight as a string, and I liked the run fairly late in that debut for trainer Tim Ham. Then you've got Antonio's horse, who clearly is the benchmark to this field and ran a faster race and a better race than the 1 Village Queen in her second start, which was a good try second behind Cone Lima, who had everything her own way on the front end. Now, just to back up the visual, or with the visual of the 1 Village Queen, we'll pick up her first start here. And again, she would have been rematching against 2 fillies out of this race in Highland Moon and Love and Livin'. But you can watch her, Ronnie. You know, I said in the scouting report she didn't have great position, and you get a sense of that here where she's just being outrun at this point of the far turn run.
Yeah, she looks like she's not going to be very in the thick of things, in this race, but she comes running pretty nicely in here. See her coming up there. She's in 5th right now, moving into 4th.
Now, you've got a stat which we'll elaborate on with trainer Tim Ham. I think for no other reason, this has been a barn that's just been really good down here in 2020. Now, she was a bit green there in the meantime with the 6 Village Queen. But here's my point. It was like in the last 200 yards, she started running straight. Victor's going lefty on her, and she really started to level off nicely and was gaining on the winner, Dauntless Gal, who sat a perfect trip. And by the way, rest of the story, who finished second in that spot for Eddie Plisa, promptly returned here last week and gave Jess's Dream in the breeding shed his first ever win.
Yeah, behind that next stat win, here's that stat on Tim Ham with his 2-year-old fillies making their second start on the dirt. He's 7 for 30, 23%, 40% of the money, $250 to return investment. So really nice numbers with that horse. Happy Constitution's going to wear blinkers today, track the pace and finish second with stretching out to 7. Looks like the one to beat. But the race, like you said, easy to logical too. A race that was really decimated by scratches.
Top 5, in fact, as we flip the page, we'll move on to that opening Labor Day Stakes race with the pair on the program. The fillies and mares get their chance on deck and in the spotlight first here at a mile and a 16th in the $75,000 Monroe. And you've got the first 5 finishers returning out of a fairly eventful race in the day at the Spa, and certainly a race going back to that Sunday card back on August the 9th that had quite a few eyeballs on it because this was the penultimate leg in a mandatory Rainbow Six, and a lot of us had singled the 8 Kelsey's Cross, who ran well in this race. This was, in the meantime, aboard the 2 Sensible Myth and the Purple Cap, who's just starting to extricate herself off the fence. This was vintage Edgar Prado. Edgar rode her perfectly. She was up close. She sat the pocket. She saved every inch of ground. And I think running and hooking a very stubborn and very classy Kelsey's Cross, who kept fighting back, that pocket trip and basically skimming the rail around both turns, that was the deciding factor between winning and losing. She goes 3 wide. I don't think she wears down Kelsey's Cross. Both of these fillies, of course, coming back along with Great Sister Diane, are very much a big part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think after that video, you can see how well they ran last time out. Sensible Myth, of course, for Leo, Gabriel Jr. But both you and I have the 7 on top of Always Shopping. I'll tell you why I like this horse. This one showed ability to get involved early when she disputed the pace on the turf. That was in the 9-furlong Treasure Coast. It was back on the grass today. Failed to fire against really tough competition, stakes competition on the dirt up north. It's Todd Pletcher. He had major, blinkers today. I think this one is part of the pace this afternoon. I like the fact that this one has showed speed on the grass before, drop it to a level in the Monroe where this one can be part of the pace. So I think that this horse is going to run well this afternoon.
I'm with you on that, and I feel as though in hindsight, not that she ran poorly in the Treasure Coast,
right,
but 2 things looking at that race in retrospect. I feel as though the quality of the field she caught on the turf that day, very much in line with the Kelsey's Crosses and Sensible Myths of the world. When you consider even Christoph's horse, Olympic Games, went on to finish second in the River Memories stake at Belmont and was 4-1 in the way a few weeks ago at Saratoga. That was a decent field she debuted on the turf against. The other thing is, I don't really view her at being best on the lead, and drawing outside the 5 Crown and Sugar, she may get the trip that she prefers where she can be the one that's doing the hunting basically in that first flight but tracking a horse down the backstretch.
Well, as you mentioned, we had some rain last night on turf courses listed as good. We're going to see how this plays out this afternoon, but Always Shopping, I was looking around. I was thinking maybe Great Sister Diane on top, but after that, I just like the fact that this horse has that tactical ability on the grass right here at Gulfstream Park. Certainly got the class to do it. Sensible Myth, for Leo Gabriel Jr. also on my ticket.
Well, let me ask you before we take a break, why do you prefer Great Sister Diane out of the day at the Spa?
I think she's going to get some speed in front of her, like you mentioned, the 5, and I thought the 7 would be up there prominently placed, and I just thought she does her best running in the latter stages of the race, and she could sit the trip behind the top choice, especially if there's a speed duel up front. So we'll see how it goes. The speed has been good on this turf course, but mine was all about the trip, so I put that one over Sensible Myth, and it was just a trip play for me.
All right, sounds good. We'll take a little breather here with the first 4 down on the afternoon, chasing a lot of dough on this Labor Day in the Rainbow after this.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round off first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Hey, everybody, hope you're ready to go because we've got a mandatory Rainbow Six payout here at Gulfstream Park. Inside 40 on the clock. We invite you to subscribe to our Gulfstream Park YouTube page. In the meantime, replays, commentary, and a whole lot more waiting for you on the interwebs. But hard to argue in the meantime with that scene. Nice breeze coming in off the Atlantic Ocean, just a few furlongs east of us here at the old GP by the Sea, and we will crown 10 individual winners in that spot right there, Ronnie. A tough place to get to, but a spot everybody wants to be in, the Gulfstream Park Winners Circle. And I wonder, speaking of winning, will you be online cashing maybe a winning Rainbow Six ticket on this Labor Day?
We're going to try for sure. $43.20 for me. 3 deep in here with the 7 Fina Nanita and Mia Solomio, who's the number 1 horse. And then in race number 6, 3 deep with 2 cents worth, Cookie Cove and De Pura Sangre. I like those 3 horses. Couldn't separate them very much, so I used all 3. Midnight Gem and Nationalist for me in race number 7. And race number 8, I like Galleon Master in there, but boy, we had some scratches in there that are going to affect the pace in there. A couple of horses that came out had speed in there, so I also used Sailing Solo on my ticket. And then 3 deep in race number 9 with Mandeus, Independent Mints, and Princess Betty. Little light in the nightcap, but I like Sweet Giant maybe to have some speed in there with the 11 Guaco. I'd like to have gone deep in there, but the ticket would have doubled to $84 or $86 or something like that.
I hear you. The scratch of O'Driscoll maybe takes out a major player in the Monday night cap, but the 2 you have are going to get bet and do look pretty solid on paper, including the 4 Sweet Giant. Now, this 5th race, I think off the bat, when we start the Rainbow a little after 2 Eastern this afternoon with a 12-5 to 10-5 maiden claimer, everything needs to basically fall in line behind the 2 turf to dirt horses in this race. You've got the 1 Mia Solomia, who you just don't know not only where she stands now in terms of ability, but can she run on the dirt? And then in the other turf to dirt move corner is Safi's 7 horse, who we both like, in Fina. This has been a barn. I had pulled the stat yesterday that didn't work out with that Tamar Cruz filly, but Safi is good as anybody with second-time starting maidens. And the fact that she ran, Ronnie, just 8 days ago and wheels back less than a week and a half later, I like the intention here with Safi. I really do.
And Jason. Safi's also good with the turf to grass to dirt move, over 30%. He's good with most angles. And this one dropping to the 10 level. Thought it was the one to beat. We both used Anita in seconds, hoping to get it away from the gate trouble-free. Threw ahead and refused to break when sent off as the favorite. Against Similar going 5.5. She breaks, she figures. Mia Solomia free-falling. I don't know what to do with that horse. I added it after the scratch in the race of the number 6 horse in here, going from special weight to 12.5.
With 10 on the card today, our Labor Day late pick 5 begins in earnest at about 2:40 Eastern in race number 6. I am going 3:11, which I like in this opening leg. The Pura Sangre for Mike Yates is the wild card against the absolute unquestioned horse to beat in the spot, the 11 2 cents worth, who hasn't raced in close to 180 days, and maybe that just sets up a little bit of a chink in the armor for her, but no reason to think she won't run well off that layup for Carlos David. So 3:11 for me to start. I'm using 2 logical horses in the 7th race. I prefer the 5 Nationalist, who got the mile last time out and just seems to be in good form. I really used a lot, obviously. I've got 4 horses in the co-featured Mr. Steele Stakes, the 2 from Dave and Louder Than Bombs and Galleon. I respect Sailing Solo, how good he was last time out. Does Sir Seamus make life difficult for him on the front end? That could really happen this afternoon. And I think Scraps has run some big races. Yeah, I know he hasn't run in some time, but he's got some back class and was a real Florida-bred overachiever. So 4 deep there, 2-horse spread in the 9th, and then I'll wrap it up. Ronnie had used a couple in race number 10, and I'm using the 2 horses that he has along with the number 9 horse in that spot in Power, who's run pretty well on the turf. Certainly that race 4 back was a giant effort. 4-9-11 to wrap things up. A big $48 play for me. It's a holiday, so I'm gonna step it up there, Ronnie boy. But let's talk about the 11 2 cents worth, who just ran well off the claim. In fact, this seems like one of the few horses that did not win out of the claim box here for trainer Carlos David. We're going back a good ways. You can see the date, March 13th. Got a great ride that day from Christian Torres where she was up close, and she will tip out and just not be good enough to reel in Foxy Lady. She's coming back off the bench, and I was curious just in Carlos's nascent training career, 4 to 6 months on the sidelines, he is 3 for 4 with horses returning off a comparable layoff. So, again, no reason to think she won't run well as just the filly to beat who's been good in basically all of her races on the turf.
Yeah, and I used the 3 like you did on your ticket to the Pura de Sangre, but I also used Cookie Cove in there, knocking on the door in consecutive starts in the turf, goes back to the grass today, showed some early interest and faded. That race was moved to the wet track list that is good, so Joe Asino, Victor LeBron had them to switch, but I think the 3, 11 and 3, maybe you throw the 5 in which you have a little further down your ticket. And just a note as we go forward in that 8th race, Jason, just before we came on, so Seamus is also out of that race. That's what I was saying. Changes the complexion of that race. It was just before we came on the air, they announced that the 9 was scratching that race.
Oh, that's yeah. Well, now I mean, and I like Galleon Mass when the race was drawn. Now his job, louder than bombs and scraps. Their job got a lot tougher. I mean, there are 2 marquee defections in terms of early speed. We'll talk about in a few seconds. No, I appreciate that. I missed that scratch before we started the show. Now, the 7th race, we'll get to the scraps field in a second here, the Mr. Steele, but we'll hammer out a race where you and I are flipping two very logical horses on paper in the 5 Nationalist, who I like that she's sharp and handled the trip last time out, and the 7 Midnight Gem slightly is the filly to beat.
Got the apprentice Alberto Burgos Nationalist, got his first stakes win. Was that yesterday or the day before?
2 days ago,
yeah. 2 days ago. And Midnight Jam comes off the respectable outing at this level and gets the tepid nod in there. I couldn't separate these 2. And I threw in Cape Line in third, a bit of a price for Monica Majoey, as Carlos Montalvo up. Maybe can grab a share in there. But I think those are the logical 2 when you're putting your tickets together, whether it's the late pick 5 or the Rainbow 6.
All right, so let's get back on to the Mr. Steele here, and you can take out, and Pete, of course, is coming up in about 5 minutes, give or take, with the Monday scratches and changes. But, I mean, with Sir Seamus out of the race, and there was another early scratch of the 3 Thunder Ride, I mean, boy, you go back, and we're going to take a look at the Mechie, and I'm really glad I pulled this race now. It's an important race to begin with, but I think its significance may increase even more. The Grey Galleon Mass didn't really show up with his best, and he's not the kind of horse I think wants to slog through like a 3 to 4 wide run around the second turn. The ground loss really affected him. But we see in that reddish cap there, in the red saddle towel down inside, Sailing Solo, who was the point man, outbroke Sharm El-Sheikh the 6. I mean, put them to bed early. He's probably going to get the same kind of trip. And man, when this race was drawn, it looked like he'd be the one, just with the presence of Thunder Ride and Sir Seamus, that might be in deep water right off the bat. Yet, man, 2 big assists. And he, again, the race now strictly goes through Sailing Solo, who's just been really good for Louis Roussel.
Agree 100%. I mean, I loved Galleon Mass today because of the fact that those 2 horses were in there. So stretching out to one of his most productive distance, but he likes to run late. We got to see if there's other speed in there. Sailing Solo looks like it's going to sit the perfect trip. I had written in my analysis, this red-hot 5-year-old has got to deal with who? Thunder Ride and Sir Seamus, they're out, so it changed things. And Louder Than Bombs, also another horse who likes to come from the parking lot. So we'll see how the race plays out. It's very interesting. But I'm going to show you a stat on Galleon Mass real quick. David Forks, 3rd start off the layoff, roots on the turf. He's 19%, 33% in the money, and he's almost got a $3 return of investment. Going to have to change some tactics in race number 8.
Yeah, absolutely. The ball on paper, anyway, is clearly in the court of Sailing Solo, who's just gone through the roof. He's been really good, obviously, in his two recent races here in South Florida for Louis Roussel. Do one of the Fox horses cut him down? And we'll see how the 10 Scraps does off the bench. I talked with Brian Cohen yesterday before the Cookie Dough race of Arundel, and he was saying we're taking a shot because he's talented and he's training well, but we like the pace situation there. He's going to get a glib pace to close down. Not the case. It's a tough game, I'll tell you. We'll see what happens. A nice crew of horses, regardless of how fast they go early. It's a likable cast in the 8th. Dirt finale's coming up. Our Monday finale on the dirt, anyway, is coming up in the 9th. A 2-lifetime, 3-and-up Billionaire Claimer. You've got the 5 Princess Betty and the 6 Independent Miss, who were 1-2 in a similar spot here, albeit in Maiden Claiming Company in July. I prefer them. I do see the percentages are quite high when Barboza gives a leg up to Edgard, and that is clearly what's going on with your top pick, the three-man Damas. Does she step back in the right direction? She has been a Jekyll and Hyde and then some.
Well, she drops to the 25-2 lifetime sprint on the dirt in first start. She failed to fire when trying the turf in the one race under the tutelage of Safi Joseph Jr. A recent half-mile bullet at least indicated to me that this horse is going to run on the better, a little better on the surface. Independent Miss on my ticket along with Princess Betty. I think these are the logical three.
And you've got two logical horses in the last. Again, a key early defection of the 2 O'Driscoll, who I liked a little bit. The 4 Sweet Giant should run well. My horse, the 9 Power, really had the worst of it back on the May 30th card, the nightcap that day, and was buried in traffic as like the wise guy horse beneath Paco. And he came back and nearly won his next start. I don't love his effort, his last turf race in mid-July, but I think overall he's a good fit running against the likes of the 11 Guaco, who's probably the horse to beat, and again, your horse, the 4 Sweet Giant. All three of them, to me, are must-uses.
Yeah, Sweet Giant going back to the turf, solid tune-up on the dirt's got that speed with the apprentice, Joseph Treos, Guaco, and Power. Those are the logical three, I thought, too. You only used 2 or 3 in there. I wanted to use your top pick as my third pick, but I didn't want to make my ticket $86.
I'll lend you the money. What do you say?
Yeah, you've been doing good with your stuff, so maybe I'll listen to you today.
All right, sounds good. Let's try to get lucky. You'll try to build off a very nice Sunday in the pick box, and a man who's always doing well and always nice, the one, the only Pete Aiello, up next with those Monday scratches and changes.